Good morning. It is April and time for our new virtue of the month. And our virtue for April is the word compassion. Compassion is a way that we show love for one another. But before we get to that, I'm going to back up just a little bit. So you all probably have seen on the news or on the internet or heard from your parents or know someone personally, and you know and realize that there are a lot of bad things that happen in the world. People act bad. Sometimes they're sick or they get hurt and suffer because of that. Sometimes children are neglected or abused. Countries go to war with one another. People are homeless. People don't have enough to eat. There's all kinds of suffering in the world. And some people might say, well, that's because God isn't real. Because if there really was a God, then all of those terrible things wouldn't happen. But we know that's not true. As Catholics and as Christians, we believe very much in God, and we believe three things about him. We believe that he is all-knowing, he is all-powerful, and he is all-loving. But other people would say, that can't be right, because if he was all-knowing, then he would know that we're suffering, and he would end that. But since he's not ending it, it must mean that he doesn't know it. Or they might say, well, he might know it, but he's not all-powerful. Because if he was powerful enough, he would put a stop to it. But since he's not putting a stop to that suffering, then he must not be that powerful. Or maybe he knows it and he's powerful enough to stop it, but he just doesn't love us enough. And since he doesn't love us enough, then he's not stopping the suffering. Well, we know that all three of those things that's not true. God is all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-loving. So why then is there suffering in the world? Well, God's greatest commandment to it is to love God and love one another. And that suffering is an opportunity for us to do just that. When we see or hear about people suffering, it's an opportunity for us to love them and help them to feel what they are feeling. And that love, when we feel what someone else is feeling, that is the word compassion. That's what compassion means. It means to feel what someone else is feeling, to walk in their footsteps, to put yourself into their circumstances and be one with them and feel what they are feeling. So Jesus is the ultimate example of compassion. God gave us his son who entered into our life as a human being, and he felt all the feelings that we felt, anger and joy and happiness and being scared. Anything that a human feels, God felt in the form of Jesus. Now, as we've been talking about our virtues this year, we've always tried to put another saint with them. So besides Jesus being the most perfect example of a compassionate person, we also it came to my mind today to talk about Saint Veronica. It is Holy Week, right? And so we've been doing the Stations of the Cross, and we're going to see the live Stations of the Cross the sixth graders will perform. And we always hear about Saint Veronica. Saint Veronica's feast day is July the 12th, so a little thing to remember this summer. Very little is known about her life. In fact, her name isn't even exactly known. Tradition gives her the name Veronica. She is the person who followed on Jesus's trail, and as he was carrying the cross, she felt so much compassion for him that when she saw him dirty and bleeding and falling down in the street, that she kind of risked her own life to step out into that mob of crowd and offer him the cloth so that he could wipe his face. And then when she did that, he left her that beautiful image of himself on the cloth. And that's where her name comes from in tradition. It's her name means Vera Icon, which sounds like Veronica, Vera Icon, which means true image. So that is the name that we give Saint Veronica, although we don't know that much about her in real life. But can you imagine having that much compassion for someone that you're willing to risk your own life to step out and in front of all those people and the Roman soldiers just to wipe his face? So Saint Veronica can be someone that we look to when we're thinking about how we ourselves can be compassionate. So you're asking yourself, well, when am I going to have a chance to do that? Well, probably not. Probably not. You're not going to have a chance to step out and wipe Jesus' face. But what kinds of things can you do in your classroom that show compassion? Think about the kids in your classroom. I bet there's someone in your classroom who finds reading difficult. They maybe struggle to read and you don't. So what is your attitude towards that person? Do you get upset with them, or you roll your eyes at them, or do you feel compassion towards them and are patient when they're struggling with reading? That same could be true in any subject, math or science or anything that you're doing in the class. How are you acting towards kids who are struggling with it? Are you being compassionate? Let's think about the lunchroom. When you're sitting at your lunch table, and those are assigned this year, right? So you're sitting across from a person, and maybe it's a person who doesn't have a lot of friends, or maybe it's a person that you wouldn't naturally spend a lot of time with. How are you treating them at the lunch table? Are you being compassionate and making conversation and trying to be a friend? Or are you constantly turning around to talk to the person behind you because you like them better? So let's think about that at lunch today. Are we being compassionate to the people we're sitting with? It's just the small things. We all can't be Veronica, but we can do the little things that make someone feel loved and makes them understand that we are feeling what they feel. When they're happy, we're happy. When they're sad, we're sad. When they're hurting, we're hurting. That's compassion. So this month, let's concentrate on that. Let's concentrate on feeling what others are feeling and see if that doesn't change our heart just a little bit and change the way that we act towards them. Thank you for listening and have a great day.